Good morning. We are reading The Mystery of History, Volume 4. We are on page 44. We had been talking about Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia. She had married Peter. That wasn't his... Oh, no, it was. I was wondering. I thought that was not his given name, but it looks like it was his given name. But Peter, he became Peter the Third, and he was pivotal in the 7 Years' War because he moved Russia to Frederick's side. Frederick the Great of Prussia, yes. And that helped Frederick the Great win that war. So now you know who Peter the Third was. And it might surprise you to learn that his reign as the Tsar, look at this word right here. This word right here, T-S-A-R. That word says Tsar. That is not an English word.
I was going to say, since like when I see the word Tsar, it doesn't look like Tsar. I always imagine Z-A-R.
That his reign as the Tsar of Russia was a very short one. It only lasted 6 months. Catherine grew intolerant of Peter, and she led a coup against him, her husband. She was German-born, a German-born princess. She put on a Russian military outfit, saddled a horse from the Russian army, and led 14,000 troops to overthrow Peter so that she could be the Empress of Russia. Her plan succeeded without a drop of blood being shed because most Russians viewed her as far more capable than Peter. Soldiers and civilians backed her up, and Peter hardly put up a fight. He asked Catherine only to be exiled with his servant, his violin, his dog, and his favorite girlfriend. So that means he was loving someone else like a wife, and he wanted her to go with him.
And they were both loving other people like husbands and wives, even while they were married to each other.
Yes, that does not make for a good marriage. Catherine granted him all but the girlfriend, who in fact disappeared from history. That means she probably had something to do with the girlfriend disappearing. After Peter's banishment, Catherine was crowned Empress Catherine II of Russia in 1762 at the Kremlin in Moscow. And
Maybe she destroyed her.
She might have. The ceremony was impressive. So here we have a German now on the throne of Russia. Now, one thing to remember is that a lot of times these heads of the countries kind of they'll kind of intermarry. What I mean is like the nephew of this person will marry the son of that person, and it kind of creates kind of good relations between the two countries. Sorry, I said the nephew will marry the son of. Wrong. The niece of this person will marry the son of that person.
I was about to
The daughter of this person will marry the nephew of that person, or the grandson. Are you wondering what happened to Peter the Third?
Yes.
Some say he was relieved to no longer be king. He certainly wasn't cut out for it, but only days after he was sent away, he died under mysterious circumstances. It's widely suspected that he was killed, perhaps by one of Catherine's boyfriends, so she had her own thing, and perhaps with her approval. The cause of Peter's death remains unclear. We do know that in her indifference, she did not attend Peter's funeral. So she was like, I'm not going to that funeral. So what we have here is now no longer is the heir to the throne not on the throne in Russia, but now he's passed away, and there's a German on the throne. I mean, yeah, a German. So it's like not even the right country. I mean, basically, she could have been like, okay, and now we're Germany.
Could have made that part of Germany.
The glorious reign of Catherine the Great. As a full-fledged empress, Catherine took charge of Russia and stayed in charge for the next 34 years. Her list of achievements is long. She started her reign by declaring that Russia was a European state. Much like Peter the Great, she wanted Russia to have a European look and feel. She did this by bringing in European architects, craftsmen, and scholars. She improved agriculture with European inventions and introduced modern methods to increase their cattle and their sheep. Inspired by learning, she invited the French scholar Diderot to Russia to finish working on his famous encyclopedia. Diderot, upon meeting Catherine, said, "Once in a lifetime, one must see such a woman." She said, Mrs. Hobart says, "I take it that he was enamored," meaning he was just so charmed by her. Additionally, Catherine built the grand, massive Hermitage as a retreat. Hermitage? I'm not sure. At the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg and transformed it into one of Europe's finest art museums. She put in the works of Raphael, Rembrandt, and others. She had at first just a few dozen works, but then she increased it to to nearly 4,000 in her lifetime. There's more to the list. She built hospitals, libraries, and schools for girls, because schools for girls was a new concept in Russia. Even in, what time is it? In what period is this? The 1700s? So this is still before women are really seen as equally important as boys. She improved roads, canals, and maps of the nation and took an accurate census of her country. She redesigned the towns with wider streets to help prevent the spread of fire. She improved public health. She brought in a European doctor to give smallpox vaccines. Hold on, I have a sneeze coming. Excuse me. In 1768, she used herself as Russia's first guinea pig for the new vaccine to demonstrate its safety. Catherine's early achievements were broad, and they benefited Russia. But still there's more. She led Russia in and out of wars, just enough to expand her borders, but not enough to keep Russia in debt. Her wars were against the Turks of the Ottoman Empire, and she pushed the Turks back to gain the Ukraine. Oh, that's relevant for right now, since they're in a war with the Ukraine right now. And access to the Black Sea.
Has it gone that far back?
I guess so. She gained the Ukraine and access to the Black Sea. Caleb, can you go grab our little world?
Sure.
Stand by while we grab the world.
I'll just say what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we learn one of our history/science readings that for a smallpox vaccine they give you a temporary case of smallpox so you can get used to it?
They give you a small amount. I don't know how you give somebody a small amount though. Because you either have the germ or you don't.
And also the Ukraine, when the Ukraine became part of the Soviet Union, there was Russia, the Ukraine, and Poland. But when they split up in 1991, the Ukraine wasn't part of the Soviet Union.
Did you look near the fireplace?
Yes.
Is it there?
No.
Okay, just come on.
I grabbed the Death Star. Wait, that wouldn't work.
Okay, so we'll just keep reading without her.
Since the Soviet Union split up and all three places didn't work together anymore.
Say that again, Cruz.
So when in 1991 when the Soviet Union split up, the Ukraine, Poland, and Russia weren't part of the same place anymore.
Oh, that's when they pulled away from Russia.
Oh yeah,
I
just mentioned that the Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union during the space race.
Okay. So this helped Russia stay firmly in the business of trading in and around the Mediterranean Sea. So with gaining Ukraine, they gained access to the Black Sea, I guess. I was trying to see if that was the case. Under Catherine, Russia gained 200,000 square miles. That's a lot of territory. Some of those miles included Poland. Catherine and Frederick the Great both helped themselves. They just took parts of large chunks of Poland. And they, in fact, took so much by 1795 that there was no Poland. Poland would not appear on the map again until after World War One. Is that when the Soviet Union dissolved after World War One? Or no? That can't
Since
be right.
the Poland was actually the first place to be invaded during World War II. That's why the Soviet Union went into war.
Okay. Let me see how much farther do we have. Okay, so let's see if we can get to the bottom of this page. The inglorious reign of Catherine the Great. As glorious as she was, she proved at times to be inglorious. One of her greater inconsistencies was how she treated peasants and serfs. In the late 1700s, 90% of the Russians were just poor farming peasants. Nearly half of those were serfs, meaning they were not free to leave the land. They were like slaves, and they were traded with the buying and selling of the property. So, now Catherine did attempt to improve the way of life for the peasants and the serfs through Russian laws. She studied Western ideas like John Locke and Voltaire. Now, Voltaire wasn't Western, was he?
No, I mean, technically.
I guess west from her, yeah. Hoping to be an enlightened despot. Her plan for better laws was called the Instruction. But when it came down to it, she failed to free the serfs from slavery or to institute this instruction. She was fearful of upsetting the wealthy who had the power to overthrow her, and she wasn't sure what to do. So she left thousands of the serfs in their miserable demise. An example of how the peasants were treated, she brutally squashed numerous peasant uprisings. One of the more dramatic revolts was led by a man named Emelian Pugachev, who claimed to be Peter III. And peasants in the country had no idea what Peter III looked like, so they believed he was Peter. Pugachev was probably one of the Don Cossacks, runaway peasants who banded together to fight for freedom. But claiming to be Peter, he enlisted thousands of other poor Russians to engage in war against the rich. So we're going to stop there because there's still more to read about Catherine. This one on Catherine is pretty long. We will pick back up on page 46, maybe tomorrow. Farewell.